Well, welcome back to Go Tropical UK. It's been a while since I put up a video. It's just life's been very hectic. I've had a lot of things happening in the garden, moving things around, plants coming in, going out, and so really haven't had the chance to actually sit down and make any video. Now, I did a video a couple of years ago talking about a bacon avocado that I had planted in the garden. It was a grafted variety that I got from a local nursery. And so I'd learned a lot as well since that video, with growing avocados and with the hardiness protection of them. And so this video is kind of a sort of an update on the avocado, but also another way in which we can approach growing avocados here in the UK. Now, two things I learned from the last video of growing a bacon avocado. One is that actually the bacon avocado was reportedly hardy down to -5, and even though it was a young tree, it was pretty hardy. That following winter, when I did that video, we actually had what was called the Beast from the East winter, which came through, and we had a very, very cold spell of weather, and it did affect a lot of the trees that were in the garden, but they all survived, including the young seedling bacon avocado that pulled through that and continued to then regrow in the summer. The problem was then during the summer was that it got taken out by the hot, dry weather that we had, and so I hadn't particularly given it enough water during that time period, and so I lost the tree during the summer. But what I've learned from it is that actually a hybrid Mexican variety, which bacon is, because it's half Mexican, half Guatemalan, hardy down to -5, will take what is pretty much a brutal, unusual winter for the UK. And so that maybe led me to think that actually if you can get hardier avocado varieties, particularly pure Mexican avocado varieties, they have a much greater chance of surviving through cold winters. But the problem I had is getting hold of Mexican variety avocados. Things like Mexicola are the main one, Mexicola Grande, which is the slightly larger one. A lot of these originate in the highlands in Mexico. And so the climate there is a cooler climate to them what it's grown in, what we visualize commercial avocados being grown in. And so, but to get hold of those was very difficult. Reason being is because the fruits aren't shipped out anywhere. So unless you live in that native area, Mexico, south of the United States, Texas, California, Florida kind of sort of area, you're not going to come across Mexicola varieties of avocados very easily. But I managed to actually get hold of some from a guy who has a YouTube channel down in Texas, and he grows a number of different varieties, but purely of the Mexican varieties. Now, the difference between Mexican varieties here are two Mexican varieties of avocado. Now, you'll notice immediately the size difference between these and what you'd buy from a regular shop, the Hass or the bacon avocados. That is part of the reason why they're not commercially produced. And so they also, because they have a very thin skin, which is paper thin, they don't travel very well, and the shelf life is not as long as the thicker skins of the avocado. So they're not commercially produced, so they're not shipped around the world and become readily available. But this guy down in Texas called Jerry Satterley, he's got a YouTube channel called Texas Avocados, so feel free to check out his video. I managed to get some fruit and some seed, got a seed here, from Mexicola and another variety called Poncho, which is this green fruit. Now, these varieties are hardy down to about -8, -9 degrees, once up to a fairly decent size. Also, the other advantage with these is that they fruit late summer, autumn, and kind of sort of into early winter time. And so in our climate, that makes it much more possible for these trees to be harvested before winter comes in. So the main aim really with this project of growing these Mexican avocados is to make them much more available in the UK than they have been. So I've managed to get some seed sent across from him. So these are from the two varieties. We've got the Mexicola and the Poncho. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start raising these from seed. We technically won't be able to call them a Mexicola Grande avocado, but they will be seedlings of those varieties, but they'll have the same characteristics as the Mexicola varieties will have. And so really what we want to be able to do is to get one that is produces a good fruit, and within the summer that we have here in the UK, and that is hardy down to the temperatures that we have in the winter as well. So the simplest way just to raise them from seed is to plant them in the soil. Take a container or a pot. The key really, I've got some soil, the key really is a really well draining potting mix. So there doesn't really matter whether it's what the pH particularly is, so just a standard regular compost, but to it I've added perlite, which is the little white popcorn rocks that we kind of get, and vermiculite, which is a sort of a compound, mineral compound, a silica compound. And so what the silica does is it controls the moisture in it, so it lets the moisture out when the soil dries out, and it absorbs it when the soil is too wet. Because the key really with the growing avocados is for the soil not to be too wet or too dry. So put your well draining potting mix into a container like that. Give yourself just a centimetre around the top. Take your avocado. Now when you look at an avocado seed, you've got a base slightly to it, and you've got a sort of a point. This one, the rounder ones, came from the poncho fruit. The Mexicola Grandes have a slight more point, it's a bit more obvious. So, but again, you want to point up and the base down, and just sink them slightly into the soil like that, and that's fine. Put it somewhere warm. If we're starting them in a greenhouse like this, and you'll soon get the plants shooting and sprouting up. And you'll know that they're Mexican varieties is because their main characteristics of any hardy Mexican variety avocado is the aniseed in the leaves. So once they get up, I'll give you an update video on them. But that's it. Put it in some compost like that, well draining, and just half through the soil, and leave the point up like that. So just to give you an update on what I'm progressing, what I'm doing, I'll give you further updates as time progresses. But thanks for joining, take care, and I'll speak to you soon.